In 2021, off the coast of Los Angeles, the horizon looked like a parking lot, but instead of cars, there were ships, dozens of them, each one longer than 3 football fields, just sitting there, waiting. Inside those ships, boxes. Not small boxes, steel boxes the size of a garage, each one packed with goods, the lifeblood of our modern lives. Groceries, phones, furniture, medicine. A single container, normally ignored, invisible, suddenly carried a price tag larger than a family car. $20,000 just to move it across the Pacific. Importers paid it. They had no choice. Fast forward to 2025, that same container is now worth less than a flight ticket. This collapse isn't just about freight. It's a signal, a warning, that the arteries of globalization are bleeding. At first glance, a container is boring. Just a steel rectangle, cold, rusting, unchanged for decades. But this humble box quietly built the modern world. Before containers, shipping was chaos. Cargo was moved piece by piece. Barrels, sacks, wooden crates. Loading and unloading a ship could take an entire week. It was expensive, dangerous, slow. Then came the 1950s. An American trucker, Malcolm McLean, had a radical idea. What if the whole trailer could be lifted off its wheels and placed directly on a ship? The standardized container was born. One size, one lock, one system. It cut loading times from days to hours. It cut costs by 95%. And in doing so, it shrank the planet. Factories in Asia could now supply stores in America. Farmers in South America could feed families in Europe. The container didn't just change shipping, it rewired the global economy. So when container prices move, the entire world feels it. Then came the pandemic, the perfect storm. We stopped traveling. We stopped going out. But we didn't stop buying. In fact, we bought more. Laptops, webcams, exercise bikes, freezers. Factories in China lit up like furnaces, but the system that carried their goods began to break. Containers were stranded on the wrong side of oceans. Ships waited weeks just to unload. Ports jammed. Cranes worked without rest. Importers panicked. They paid any price to secure a single container. And the price? It skyrocketed. $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. Finally, $20,000. For one trip. Carriers struck gold. In 2021 and 2022, shipping companies made more profit than in the entire previous decade combined. Executives called it the new normal. They bragged to shareholders, they ordered champagne for boardrooms, and they made one fatal mistake. They believed it would last forever. Flush with cash, carriers flooded shipyards. They ordered new vessels, not just ships, mega ships. Floating cities, capable of carrying 24,000 containers each, the largest machines humans had ever put on water. But ships take years to build, and by the time they were ready, the world had changed. The shopping spree was over. Consumers shifted from goods to services. Restaurants, travel, entertainment. The demand that fueled the boom evaporated. But the ships kept coming, more and more capacity, chasing less and less cargo. And in shipping, oversupply is death. Rates collapsed, 20,000, 15, 5, until finally, under $1,000. Every boom writes the script for its own bust. But oversupply wasn't the only problem. There were accidents, disruptions, moments that reminded the world just how fragile the arteries of trade really are. Like March 2021, a sandstorm hit the Suez Canal. The Ever Given, one of the largest ships ever built, ran aground, wedged sideways in the canal. A single ship blocking 12% of global trade. For 6 days, nothing moved. Hundreds of ships piled up at both ends, billions of dollars lost every day. And all because one container ship lost control. That incident became a meme. But for the shipping world, it was a warning shot. A reminder that this system could break. And break it did. When demand finally cooled, the megaships arrived anyway. Steel leviathans gliding half-empty across the oceans. Carriers tried to disguise the problem. They cut sailings, they idled vessels, they played games with supply. But the truth was obvious. There were simply too many ships, and not enough to put inside them. By 2024, profits had evaporated. By 2025, the industry was in freefall. And that is where our story truly begins. Just when it seemed like the collapse had bottomed out, geopolitics intervened. In the Red Sea, attacks on commercial ships forced carriers to reroute around Africa. Voyages grew weeks longer. Fuel bills soared. For a moment, prices spiked again. But it was temporary, because the deeper problem was not war, it was capacity. Too many ships, too few goods. And so, the collapse continued. Who wins when containers collapse? Importers? Retailers? Anyone restocking shelves? They celebrate. Their costs fall. But the carriers? Giants like Maersk, Costco, Evergreen, they are bleeding. They expanded at the peak. Now their megaships sail half-empty. Profits sink. And some whisper, serious bankruptcies may not be far away. For everyday people, collapsing freight costs sound like good news. Cheaper shipping means cheaper goods. And yes, some prices fall. Furniture, appliances, bulky imports. But don't expect miracles. Because shipping is only one piece of the puzzle. Energy, labor, tariffs, those costs remain. The fall in freight prices is a cushion, not a cure. So while collapsing rates look like a blessing on paper, in reality, they're a warning, a signal that trade itself is slowing, that demand is weakening. And when demand weakens, entire economies tremble. Sirius, the steel box doesn't just carry goods, it carries signals about what people buy, what they stop buying, and what they fear. And right now, that signal is flashing red. There are only 3 levers that move container prices. First, demand. When consumers and factories order less, prices fall. Second, capacity. When carriers launch too many ships, prices fall. Third, routes. When conflict, weather, or politics disrupt trade, prices spike. Every movement in the shipping market can be traced to one of these levers. So, what lies ahead? Scenario 1, a soft landing. Steady demand, too many ships, rates stay low. Scenario 2, a reshock. Another crisis pushes prices up, only to collapse again. Scenario 3, an investment winter. Carriers cut orders, idle ships, and stabilize rates. The steel box is a seismograph. It records tremors before we feel them. Globalization is not dead. It has simply changed shape. Distance is cheap again. But volatility is the new normal. Those who prepare for storms will outlive those who expect calm seas. Shipping containers built the modern world. And if they are no longer worth moving, what does that say about the future we are entering? This is only the beginning. Subscribe for more untold business stories.